AI used to recommend terrible movies and put weird autocorrect words in your texts. Now it can clone voices, fake videos, predict behavior, and impersonate real people well enough to make your trust issues feel completely justified. And the creepy part is, this is not some far off sci fi nightmare. This stuff is already here. Voice cloning AI can now copy a person's voice from a tiny sample of audio and generate brand new speech that sounds uncannily close to the original. In some cases, it only needs a few seconds of someone talking before it can build a synthetic version of that voice. That ability comes from speech models trained on enormous amounts of human audio. Learning how tone, cadence, accent, pauses, and little verbal quirks all fit together. So the machine is not really understanding the voice in a human way. It is learning the pattern well enough to fake it, which somehow is not more comforting. What makes voice cloning especially creepy is that the danger is emotional before it is technical. If a random robot voice tells you there is an emergency, most people shrug and keep eating their sandwich. But if it sounds like your daughter, your brother, or your boss calling in a panic, that hits a very different nerve. There is also something unsettling about how fast this happened. We went from computers can sort of talk to computers can sound like your Uncle Ron after 2 beers at a barbecue in what feels like 5 minutes. And unlike older fake audio tricks, this does not require a skilled impressionist or a movie studio. And a regular person with the wrong software and the wrong intentions can do serious damage. That matters because our voices used to feel personal. Not secret, maybe, but personal. Now they are turning into just another file that can be copied, edited, and weaponized. Deepfake videos. Deepfake video uses AI to create or alter footage so that a person appears to say or do something that never actually happened. Sometimes it is a face swapped onto another body. Sometimes it is the original video itself being manipulated with the mouth expressions and head movement adjusted so the fake lines match the fake speech. The roots of this go back to image manipulation and visual effects, but modern deepfakes took off once machine learning became good at generating realistic faces and matching them to motion frame by frame. What makes deepfakes different from older fake videos is that old fakes usually needed time, money, and skill. You had to really work for your deception back then. There was effort, there was craftsmanship, there was, dare I say, a certain old-fashioned dishonesty. Now the barrier is much lower. Tools are faster, cheaper, and more accessible, which means the number of people who can produce convincing fake video has exploded. That is bad news for politics, celebrity harassment, revenge content, misinformation, and plain old fraud. The truly creepy part is not just that a deepfake can fool people, it is that deepfakes also create doubt around real footage. Once people know fake video exists, they can point to authentic footage and say it must be fake. So the technology does damage in both directions. It can invent lies and it can help real liars deny the truth. That makes it different from a normal hoax. It erodes trust in the whole idea of visual evidence. In other words, the old saying, the camera never lies, has now been dragged into an alley and mugged by a graphics card. Emotion reading AI systems are increasingly being built to analyze faces, voices, word choice, posture, and behavior in order to guess how someone is feeling. A model might look for subtle changes in facial tension, vocal pitch, speaking speed, hesitation, eye movement, or language patterns, then label the result as stress, anger, joy, boredom, fear, or confidence. The promise is that software can spot emotional signals humans miss. The reality is a lot messier because humans themselves are already pretty bad at reading one another. And that matters because a wrong guess by a machine does not always stay a harmless guess. It can become part of a hiring decision, a risk score, a customer profile, or a flag in a surveillance system. Once software labels someone as suspicious, dishonest, unstable, or disengaged, that label can stick around longer than it deserves. And people often trust technology more than they should, especially when it comes wrapped in graphs and percentages. Put a bad guess into a pie chart, and suddenly it looks like science, and the machine may just be shrugging in binary, but people hear certainty. Predicting behavior AI is already being used to study patterns in human behavior and forecast what people are likely to do next. That can include what you might buy, what video you might click, whether you will cancel a service, whether you might respond to a message, whether you might default on a loan, or whether you fit some kind of risk profile. These systems are built from data trails that people leave behind every day: browsing history, purchase records, app activity, location signals, search behavior, and interactions on digital platforms. Humans produce a mountain of clues without realizing it, and then act surprised when the machine starts acting like a weird little fortune teller. The problem is that prediction easily starts shaping behavior, not just measuring it. If a system predicts you are high risk, you may be watched more closely. If you are watched more closely, more suspicious looking data gets collected. If more suspicious looking data gets collected, the system feels even more confident in its original guess. So a prediction can start creating the future it claimed to foresee. That's not magic, it is a feedback loop. But from the outside, it can feel like the machine has already judged you before you have done anything at all, like a digital crystal ball run by an insurance company, which is somehow even less fun than it sounds. Human-like chatbots, modern AI chatbots can carry on long conversations, answer questions, imitate tone, follow context, and respond in ways that often feel surprisingly natural. They come from large language models trained on huge amounts of text, learning patterns in how humans write and speak. They do not think like people, and they do not understand the world the way people do. But they are very good at producing language that feels coherent, relevant, and sometimes weirdly personal. Good enough, in fact, that a lot of people stop caring about the difference. That is where the creepiness really kicks in. The chatbot does not need to be alive to trigger the part of your brain that responds socially. If something talks like a person, remembers parts of a conversation, flatters you, comforts you, jokes with you, or seems emotionally available at 2 in the morning, people start relating to it as if there is someone in there. There's no ghost in the machine. But the machine is very good at pretending there might be. And the human brain, bless its gullible little heart, is eager to fill in the blanks. AI impersonation. AI impersonation is the broader ability to imitate a real person well enough to fool others using some combination of voice, face, writing style, photos, video, documents, or live interaction. It is not just one trick. It is a bundle of tricks working together. A scammer might use AI to write like your coworker, clone your manager's voice, generate a believable profile photo, and create fake identification to support the lie. On their own, each element might have flaws. Together, they can be convincing enough to get results. What makes impersonation especially dangerous is that trust is usually built from small, familiar signals. A name you recognize, a face that looks right, a voice that sounds close enough, a writing style that feels normal. Most people do not stop to analyze every message like they are in a spy thriller. They operate on instinct, routine, and context. That is exactly what impersonation attacks exploit. The fake only needs to be good enough to slip past your first layer of doubt. After that, people often cooperate with the scam themselves, handing over passwords, money, data, or access because everything feels just real enough. This is where a lot of separate AI abilities converge into one genuinely nasty package. Voice cloning helps the phone call, deepfakes help the video meeting, language models help the email, image generation helps the profile, data scraping helps the criminal know exactly how to sound believable. It is like every sketchy tool on the internet formed a band and decided their first album would be identity theft. And because so much of modern life happens through screens, messages, and remote communication, it is getting easier to imitate presence without actually being present. Scam automation. One of the creepiest things AI can already do is make scams faster, cheaper, and more convincing at scale. In the past, a scammer often had to write broken messages by hand, run crude call scripts, or spam the same obvious nonsense to thousands of people and hope somebody took the bait. AI changes that. It can generate personalized messages, mimic real conversation, translate into different languages, respond to objections, and even adjust tone depending on the target. So instead of one clumsy scam sent to 10,000 people, you can have 10,000 tailored scams that each sound oddly human. That matters because the old comfort used to be that most scams were obvious. They were full of bad grammar, weird phrasing, and the subtle elegance of a brick through a window. But AI is steadily removing those red flags. A scam message can now sound polite, clear, and context aware. It can mention your job, your city, your bank, your shipping company, or your boss. It can keep a conversation going long enough to feel real. It can answer follow-up questions without immediately collapsing like a bad actor forgetting his lines. The creepiness here is not just about realism, it is about scale. AI lets bad actors run persuasion like an automated business process. That means more messages, more fake support chats, more convincing fake job offers, more fake customer service interactions, and more scams that feel tailored rather than generic. The criminal does not need to be a genius mastermind in a lair full of monitors. He can be some lazy keyboard goblin with a laptop and an internet connection outsourcing the smooth talking to a machine. And that is a rough development for the rest of us because human deception used to require at least a little effort. So as helpful as AI can be aware of these deceptive things. When AI is abused by nefarious criminals, it goes from being a useful tool to being an effective weapon very quickly. Subscribe to stay updated on the latest Dark Things Explained, and check out our other videos right here.